Coming up on 2.5 Geeks, we're going to talk a lot about NVIDIA, lots of news out of GTC, SSDs, a Western digital drive, and a heck of a lot more.
It rocked in the benchmarks. We're going to up the ante a little bit. Processing power, I kind of understand this.
Hey everybody, welcome to 2.5 Geeks. I'm Ayaz Akhtar alongside Dave Altavilla, and I assure you that is Marco Chiappetta, even though he is rocking just skin. He's lost all the facial hair. So first, I got to ask, Marco, how you doing? Did you lose a bet?
I'm doing good. I did not lose a bet. I had that last goat for a few months, and I felt like my skin just needed to breathe a little bit and feel some sunshine. So last night I took the Gillette to it and wiped it off the face.
That is an atrocity. I will say, as a bearded gentleman, I don't understand how somebody could do that to their face. But let me talk to Dave and ask Dave, how are you doing since you've never had a beard as long as I've known you?
What's that insurance commercial where the guys have a beard growing contest? I could probably do that pretty easily, right?
Yeah, by the end of this episode, you'll see Dave's 5 o'clock shadow totally come in. It's what happens on the show.
Push it out. Yeah. No, I've never gotten into the facial hair thing, although I clearly could grow one, any of anything, facial hair-wise, very easily. But lest we digress too much, I'm doing well. And you, Ayaz?
I am doing very well. I've been growing out my beard, so to speak, and I'm trying out new and wild things. So there we go. Maybe in November we'll do a beard growing contest or a playoff beard for some kind. And then we'll actually have a nice wrap up about beard tech, the Norelco episode. Anyway,
Sure.
Forget about that kind of hardware.
Braun.
Let's talk about what we're here to talk about. Now, NVIDIA had a ton of news. We're going to try to get through as much of it as we can. First up, I know NVIDIA did some cool things with the Shield, including, I think, they brought the price down. Marco, you want to hit on this this news item?
Yeah, I have two bits of news about NVIDIA. And before we confuse all the viewers, the week before last, I attended GDC, the Game Developers Conference, and this past week, Dave was at GTC, the GPU Tech Conference. So we have tons of NVIDIA news out of both of those shows. So the first bit of news, as you mentioned, was about Shield. So let me grab my Shield because it's just such a cool device. If no one's seen one, they need to put their eyes on it. That's the NVIDIA Shield right there. So NVIDIA has been basically updating this guy since it came out last year. They've been really good about bringing the latest versions of Android to the Shield. They've incorporated new game streaming technologies. They've tweaked the price here and there. And now in this latest update, which actually hasn't hit the device yet, it's going to hit this week, but I was able to disclose what's in it. So NVIDIA is bringing the latest version of KitKat to Shield. That's the first bit of news. They've also incorporated some new streaming capabilities. Now, before, you could stream from a PC to the Shield on your local network. As long as you had a GeForce GTX in your PC and the GeForce Experience app installed, you could stream from your PC to the Shield. It worked really well. If you watch our video, I show it on the site. The latest edition allows you now to stream off-site. So as long as you have a 5 megabit up-down connection on a robust Wi-Fi connection outside of your home, you can still stream from your PC to your Shield. So you can take your PC games on the go, basically. It's really cool.
So that's on the handheld side, but we also got news on the desktop side. I don't want to. We're going to be jumping around on this a bit. So there's.
Yep.
I was reading that the piece that you put together about NVIDIA's future DX11 driver is supposed to make everything a lot better for gaming on an actual PC. I was going to say console for a second. I don't know why. I just had console in the brain there.
So before I get to that, that's the next thing I'm going to get to. I want to talk about two more Shield tidbits quick. So another feature coming to Shield in that update is support for Bluetooth keyboards and mice. So if you want to play games that are best with keyboard and mouse input, you can. NVIDIA has also updated the Tegra Zone for a cleaner layout. along with a news feed for Tegra News. And also, finally, perhaps the most interesting to readers, the price has dropped to $199 through April. I'm not sure if it's going to stay at $199 after April, but if you were waiting for a Shield, it's now under $200. So pretty cool stuff. Now, to answer your question about the DX11, DX12, all that other news, you've probably heard about AMD's Mantle the last few months. Everybody's been talking about it since it was announced last September. And Mantle has sort of, I don't want to say lit a fire under everybody's butt in the gaming industry, but it's definitely stirred a lot of news, stirred a lot of discussion about API overhead, things like that.
So, it lit a fire.
Yeah, it lit a fire. You're right. It's fair to say it. So while at GDC, NVIDIA just wanted to talk about a few things. Microsoft obviously launched DX, or at least announced officially DX12 at GDC. So there was lots of news around that too. And NVIDIA just wanted to talk about all of the major APIs and sort of clear the air a bit. So in terms of DX12, NVIDIA wanted to point out that Microsoft's demo where they showed Forza running on DX12 was run on NVIDIA hardware. It was on a GTX Titan Black, and NVIDIA already had a working DX12 driver for that demo. So as you know, DX12 is, or maybe you don't know, DX12 is sort of like Mantle. It's a closer to Metal API that's written specifically to take advantage of some of the newer features in modern GPUs. And it should allow for vast improvements in the number of draw calls, lower CPU overhead, better multi-threaded support on multi-core processors, lots of stuff that should make performance better overall. Now, on top of DX12, sorry, you had a question?
No, I was going to say, because of the closer to Metal thing, when I was reading about this idea, if you can just make it, if you can have software that directly speaks to that hardware, you're going to see some really crazy performance increases. I was just really kind of curious about timing as to this. When are we going to start seeing all of this stuff come together?
So Microsoft wasn't completely clear on DX12. If I was a betting man, I would say it's going to debut with Windows 9 next year. And they're saying by holidays next year, holidays 2015, games that support DX12. I would think it'll come with DX9. They'll probably port it for DX81. I don't think it's going to come to Windows 7. It's possible, but I don't think so. But yeah, you're about a year and a half, 2 years off before DX12 has any real meaningful impact on gaming. Now, one other note in terms of closer to the Metal programming, doesn't necessarily make programming any easier for game developers, but it will allow them to, pull more performance and leverage more features out of modern GPUs. So there's going to be a learning curve for game developers. Though AMD's quick to point out, if a game dev is using Mantle, it's very similar. DX12 is very similar. So if someone's using Mantle now, they should be able to switch to DX12 fairly easy, or also use DX12 fairly easy.
So we've got a lot more NVIDIA news out of GTC. We've got Pascal.
Wait. I still have two quick things. I'm sorry.
What?
I was just pausing to give you a moment to chime in, but two more quick things. So NVIDIA also talked about DX11, and DX11 sort of gotten a bad rap in light of all the Mantle news, basically because it's not using hardware as efficiently as it could. NVIDIA basically said DX11 is not great, but it's really not all that bad. And through some future driver optimizations, they're going to bring Mantle-like performance improvements to their existing graphics cards with the DX11 driver update. So I don't have a release date for that, but I show some expected performance differences in the article, which are rather dramatic. It takes a 780 Ti in some instances from being slower than a 290X to blowing it out of the water. And NVIDIA also talked about OpenGL and wanted to dispel the myths that it's an old, clunky, bloated API, and that it's actually, a modern, robust, widely compatible API. And through some new extensions, they've enabled some new features. So, good stuff across the board, no matter what API you want to use, basically. All right, off to you.
It's like, Marco, may I please pass to Dave now?
Sorry.
Pass the baton, man.
No, man, there's so much NVIDIA news that, I mean, on those two stories alone, there was tons, but there's still a heck of a lot more. Like I was mentioning before, Pascal, was introduced, not the programming language, but NVIDIA's next generation. What do you even call it? Next generation what? Platform? Roadmap? Somebody help
Graphics
me
core,
here.
actually the next generation GPU specifically.
So we got news
But
about
yeah,
that and Unreal Engine 4. So go ahead, Dave.
yeah, all kinds of different stuff going on with NVIDIA these days. And what's interesting, and you come to find out sort of the wealth of technology that this company brings to the table. Definitely at this point, a Silicon Valley bellwether that it wasn't around until only recently, in the age of the GPU and in the desktop platform, but has really begun to permeate lots of platforms, and certainly mobile and gaming, and from all angles. So, and when you see their fearless leader and CEO Jensen Huang stand up and do his thing at the GTC conference I attended in San Jose this past week, the GPU Technology Conference. Which is an NVIDIA event. When you see Jensen stand up and how passionate he is, you can see how this company, how their roots began, and how influential they've become in the industry. Jensen really is a powerful leader. But enough about puffing up, Jensen, the CEO. Let's talk about the tech. And there was a boatload of it to come out at GTC. They did out their next generation GPU graphics core called Pascal. Just some high level details of the technology, and sort of giving the attendees and viewers of the webcast a quick overview of what they're going to do to advance the platform. Everybody thinks we've gotten the best visual fidelity and the best graphics effects we're going to get. We're really reaching sort of the pinnacle of cinema quality rendering on the screen in real time. But there's really a lot more work to do, and certainly at these higher resolutions 4K panels that we've discussed on previous webcasts. So really, the architecture has to head in that direction to support that higher fidelity, those higher resolutions, and more real-time cinema like effects. And Pascal is their platform to get them there. It's a forward-looking architecture to productize sometime in 2016, believe it or not. So we're getting some really advanced information here. But NVIDIA will employ some pretty bleeding edge breakthrough technologies to take them to the next level in graphics. And Jensen talked about 3D stacked memory technology, 3D stacked DRAM specifically. And so now you have GDDR5 currently in graphics cards, or as the frame buffer memory, the video memory for graphics cores. 3D stacked video memory, or 3D stacked DRAM, is going to allow them to increase the density and literally stack silicon die on top of each other through silicon vias to interconnect them. And then they also introduced a new serial link technology called NVLink, which will allow 5 to 12x the bandwidth of PCI Express. So this is a dedicated graphics serial link that will allow inter-GPU communication and GPU to CPU communication as well. So alleviating the bottlenecks, adding more memory, adding more bandwidth. Memory bandwidth is key to graphics technology, and that's what this new Pascal architecture is going to be all about, is alleviating that bandwidth bottleneck.
And he also showed off the Titan Z, this ridiculous graphics card, and it's supposed to be able to handle. It says next generation 5K and multi-monitor gaming. I don't know if that's a typo, but it sounds like we were talking about 4K monitors in the previous episode, saying how difficult it is for some of these graphics cards to be able to push this kind of crazy resolution. It looks like Pascal's going to be able to take care of that.
Well, Pascal will when it gets here. Titan Z is a more near-term product that essentially. It takes two of the fastest, most badass GPUs NVIDIA can muster right now, which is the Titan Black, the GeForce GTX Titan Black GPU, which typically comes on a single card, a single GPU card. And now they've employed two of them on a single card. So now you have dual GeForce GTX Titan Blacks on a single card with let me get the specs pulled up here. You get a ton of memory. You get 5,760 CUDA cores between the two of them, 12 gig of memory, 6 gig per GPU, 8 teraflops of performance. Those are the specs. And no joke, I mean, this thing will run, 4K gaming, no problem for a graphics card like this. Strap two of these together, and you're talking, anything, just, blow it up at a 100 frames per second or more. Certainly dual 4K monitors wouldn't be a problem with a dual setup, dual Titan Z setup. But yeah, this is hands down the fastest graphics card to hit the market when it does, which will be very soon. The gotcha is you got to sell a kidney to own one. I don't know. Maybe a kidney's might be a little bit pricey, but it's $3,000 for one of these things. It's very expensive, but very fast.
That just means long term, in like 5 years, something like that will only cost like a pinky. But NVIDIA also did another demo of Unreal Engine 4. You guys have a video of this demo, and it looks absurd that this is happening in real time. It's a combat scene. What did you think when you saw it?
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at what you can do with next generation graphics and the technologies that guys like Epic with their Unreal Engine can achieve. What you're looking at there is a cutscene, a fight scene from. It's really not a cutscene. It's actually real time rendering, but it's a fight scene being played back from Unreal Engine 4. It is actually being played on a Titan Z, a dual GPU NVIDIA Titan Z. And if you look at it, it's just so darn impressive. As I mentioned before, I use the term, cinema quality rendering in real time, and that's really what you're looking at here. You see reflections, you see shadowing, you see lighting, you see the kind of detail that is really cinema quality. And these characters that are animated in that fight scene on the screen in front of you look very natural. All of their moving parts are fluid, and you don't see any of that sort of blocky, staccato sort of movement that we used to deal with back in the day of the advent of 3D graphics in the desktop. You're really getting to the point where it's cinema quality graphics rendering in real time on the screen in front of you, and it's exciting to see. So good stuff there. NVIDIA also, by the way, disclose some information on their mobile roadmap. You remember the Tegra K1 with Kepler graphics on board is their next generation Tegra chip. Tegra 4 is out right now currently, so Tegra K1 is their next generation chip, which is right around the corner. And then they even talked next gen beyond that, which is Arista, which gets us the Tegra core, ARM-based core, 32 or 64-bit. 64-bit was planned for K1, by the way, Tegra K1 as well. So either type of ARM architecture at the CPU side, but Arista will employ Maxwell graphics, which is NVIDIA's latest GPU technology on the desktop and in notebooks as well. So Kepler's current gen, it's where the 780 Ti and certainly the Titan Z are based. That's Kepler architecture. Maxwell is next generation architecture that's just coming out now in the mid-range, and we'll eventually see a very high-end Maxwell, a 780 class, higher-end version of Maxwell architecture as well on the desktop. Arista takes that Maxwell next generation core to mobile with Tegra. So a lot to chew on from our friends at NVIDIA this week, and we like to see it.
Before we tie a bow neatly around all the NVIDIA news, is there anything else that anybody wants to hit?
I think we're good.
I think we covered it. Yeah. I mean, NVIDIA did a lot of other sort of tech demo stuff. They're master of the tech demo. You're going to start seeing things like very interesting applications of GPU technology in things like machine learning and machine vision. So that one of the big demos they had at the show, which was very impressive to see, is they have these infotainment and actually intelligent navigation systems that they're building in these cars now with manufacturers like Audi. Tesla was there. Tesla is actually a Tegra-driven platform in their main screen. Audi had a machine vision application where the car, the let me get that word right, autonomous car that will drive itself and actually see the road, and the autonomous car, see the road in front of you and objects around you, and be able to calculate that in real time and not get in an accident. So they had lots of demos like that going on, and pretty impressive stuff.
Shall we move on to the world of SSDs? Something I can wrap my head around a lot easier, because NVIDIA stuff is so future-facing sometimes that I'm like, when am I going to see this? And when I watched that demo, I was watching the demo several times while Dave was talking about Unreal Engine 4. I was just like, that looked great. And the funny thing is about when it comes to rendering things like that, your eye knows stuff that your brain doesn't. You're like, oh, I can see that looks wrong, but you don't know why it looks wrong. But everything looked fantastic on that. And obviously it was running on a $3,000 graphics card, so it should look that good. But it was just drool worthy. And so we're going to talk a little bit about SSDs. We've got a Samsung and a Crucial SSD. The Samsung one, Marco, looks like it doesn't have a case. What exactly am I looking at with the 840 Evo?
So that particular 840 Evo is an M-SATA drive. It's not a 2.5-inch drive. It's a tiny M-SATA device for really small form factor systems like the Intel NUC, or even some laptops that use M-SATA devices. So it's basically, that particular drive is essentially identical to the 2.5-inch version that Samsung came out with a few months ago. But it's using that different interface. It's got updated firmware. Unfortunately, my 2.5-inch Evo drives wouldn't accept the latest firmware. So I don't know how much their performance has changed since I first looked at them. But this particular Samsung M-SATA drive, it was pretty awesome through the benchmark. So these the 840 Evo, if you go back and look at the launch piece, it uses something called TLC NAND, and it's not quite as durable as MLC, and definitely not as durable as SLC. But Samsung's done a few tricks here and there, modified their firmware, some background operations to keep endurance up. But they've also really tuned the performance really well on the drive. Now, one of the most important performance factors on a desktop is these small file transfers, 4K file transfers. And with block sizes from 4K up to 64K, this particular Samsung drive did really well. You can look at the Atto benchmarks in the article and see that it was, a nice notch ahead of the other drives we tested. And pricing is also fairly competitive. The 500 gig drive was something like $299 for the M-SATA drive. So not quite 50 cents a gig, but prices have come down a lot. If someone's looking for a small M-SATA SSD but doesn't want to give up capacity or performance, definitely want to check out these Samsung 840 Evos. It was a really nice drive.
Yeah, Samsung also had, if I remember, like a special piece of software called Magician. Is that right? What exactly does that do? And is it something that makes this SSD better than others?
So yes, that's Samsung's Magician is basically a tool suite Samsung has designed for these drives to perform a number of things: update firmwares, secure erase the drive, just basic maintenance operations. But it also allows users to enable a feature called Rapid Mode. Now, if you've seen SSD caching technology in the past, it would take the most commonly used bits of data from a hard drive and cache it to an SSD for faster access and better performance. This rapid mode technology is similar, but it takes the most commonly accessed bits of data from your SSD and puts them in your system memory in RAM. So when rapid mode is enabled with a Samsung 840 Evo, you could see transfer speeds, in excess of 4 or 5 gigs a second when that cached data is being transferred. It's not going to work across the board. If something is not cached, the SSD is going to perform just as it would as a standalone SSD. But for your cached data, it's a big performance boost. So it's sort of a value add for these Samsung drives. It's pretty cool.
So then there's the Crucial drive, which seems to be pretty price competitive when it comes to SSDs. What can you tell us about the M550?
Yeah, so this is another drive I really liked. So Crucial basically took the M500 and everything they've learned in the last few months to tweak and modify their firmwares and to wring the most performance out of their 20 nanometer NAND, and to leverage all of the features of the Marvell controller at the heart of the drive. They sort of worked that all into the M550, and overall performance was pretty darn good. If you look at the article, I tested a 512 gig and a 1 terabyte drive, and throughout all of the benchmarks, the drive's competitive with some of the latest drives out there. It hangs with the Intel 730, the OCZ Vertex 460. It hangs with the Samsung drives as well. Across the board, there's not one single deficient performance area. It's basically bumping up against the limits of the SATA port the drive's connected to. So you're seeing transfer speeds, reads in excess of 550 megs a second, writes on the larger drives, similar 500 megabytes per second plus. Great performance with 4K files at high Q depths. The drive its performance doesn't change whether it's transferring incompressible or compressible data, so consistent performance there. Just a really nice drive across the board. And on top of that, Crucial has priced them fairly aggressively. The 1 terabyte drive you can find for $529. So it's not cheap. Not everybody's going to have $530 to throw at a drive, but a 1 terabyte SSD for $529. That was not only was the capacity unheard of just a year or two ago, but those prices were absurd a year or two ago. You were talking dollars per gig. Now you're talking cents per gig, and similar pricing on the 500 gig drive, which I think was $299 also. I'd have to double check, but just nice drives across the board at competitive prices. From a name that knows NAND flash memory. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, I was looking at your the hot and not section of this particular hard drive, and the only not on this says minimal bundle, no mounting adapter or cloning software. That's not a heck of a lot. That's a quibble at that point.
Yeah, you could nitpick. You could look at other SSDs and say, oh, this one was a little faster with 4K transfers, or this one did better by a few megabytes per second in sequential transfers. But the differences are so small, you would never see that in the real world. So to get these kind of capacities and competitive prices, it's hard not to like the drive.
That sounds like I could get an SSD, and it's affordable. I'm a big fan of just hearing the phrase 1 terabyte SSD. That just puts a big stupid smile on my face. Yeah, it does. Let's talk about another kind of drive, the Western Digital MyCloud EX2 personal cloud server. Now, this is using those old. I guess you could put SSDs in this if you wanted to, but this is a new version of MyCloud. What's up with this one, Dave?
So yeah, you certainly could put SSDs in here, but it would be kind of defeat the purpose. SSDs are really great for boot drives and applications and running in real time. Hard drives, there's still plenty of life left in hard drives for bulk storage, and that's what this is all about. The WD MyCloud EX2 is a network attached storage device, a NAS device. But really, the hook here is it's a dual base system. So now you can plug in a pair of drives in it, and it will take up to 16 terabyte in the same platform. And so now you can set up RAID and all that good stuff with a dual drive setup. So specifically, the best thing to do here is for fault tolerance. Is to set up a pair of drives in this in RAID 1, so that if a drive fails, you just replace it, and you don't have to worry about data loss. So that's the sort of the quick cheat on this thing. It's enabled with Gigabit Ethernet, has dual USB 3, and again a dual drive setup. But really, what's interesting about it, what makes the MyCloud product line from WD interesting, is that it has really a refined user interface to get access to your data, not just as a dumb backup device, which of course it will do that as well.
So this thing seems like you can get it with it's got two drive bays, excuse me. When it comes to pricing on something like this, is it worth the money? Because I think I read it was a little slower than its predecessor.
Yeah, well, you got to remember, in this case, you're talking about RAID 1, which versus a single drive system, you may see a little bit of a performance degradation in certain applications for parity and redundancy, parity checks, and what have you with a RAID setup, because you're mirroring that data across two drives, on two drives. You need to do parity checks in read-write transactions. You might see a little bit of a performance degradation versus a single drive system. Again, in some applications, sequential transfers tend to be places where you see that. And I actually misspoke earlier. This is a two drive system, so basically the max capacity of hard drives that are out there's 4 terabyte hard drives in there. You could get 8 out in the market today. You could get 8 terabytes conceivably in this. The 4-bay system will go to 16 terabytes. Using, again, 4 terabyte, max 4 terabyte drives that are out in the market today. So yeah, performance was, in some cases with RAID 1, it was a little bit slower than the previous gen. But in other cases, it was a lot faster, because now you've got, bolstered processor and internals in this new device. But again, what really I think is important, the most important takeaway with it, and why actually, believe it or not, this class of device, and specifically the MyCloud brand at HotHardware, does very well. People come to read this about the MyCloud series of products from WD. We get a lot of traction on these articles. And the reason is because WD does a really nice job with setting up the apps and the configurability and the access to the data. So, for example, there are multiple different mobile platform apps that you can use, that you can install on your smartphone or your tablet, what have you, to get access to your data. The MyCloud app on Android or iOS is available to you, and you can pull up a file remotely. You can pull up photos. You can stream music, and it just works. If you're going to stream video, you're going to want to be hooked up over Wi-Fi. Mobile connection might not be the way to go for streaming video. But even streaming music over a mobile connection wasn't a problem. And what's critical here as well is, you're on the road, you had a critical file back home, maybe it's a PDF file, what have you, and or at the home office in the case of most folks for the personal use, or back at the office if this is in a small office, you can get that on your tablet, on your phone, quick view, quick access, and it's ready to go. It also supports lots of different, DLNA sharing, internally when, on your internal network, but remote access is really where this thing shines and does well. And so, versus just having it in a standalone, backup my files every day, which is important too. You've got this intelligent app ecosystem around it as well that gives you access to your data on the road. It also will connect with Amazon S3, and I think there was another cloud backup service provider, Elephant Drive, that it will sync up and back up itself to if you want to double protect your data. So, off site. So, for example, in the case of a fire or some other, flood or some other catastrophe, your data is backed up to the cloud too. Really good stuff, very well appointed, and that's what this family of NAS devices from WD is all about.
Speaking of really good stuff, I know you guys are having a big giveaway. Mark, you want to take it away? Exactly how our viewers and listeners and readers can actually get themselves something really cool for very little?
Yes, I would love to. And I need to point out, we are in the final throes here. We're in the final hours of the Spring Fling giveaway with CyberPower PC. We have a killer small form factor Zeus mini machine up for grabs. You just have to come by HotHardware. You have to register in our forums, comment in our news and our articles with real comments. Don't just spam, or you're not going to win. And like a couple of Facebook pages, maybe promote or throw our Google Plus page in your likes, and that's really it. So come by the site, check out the stuff, check out the build. You're going to love it. We have a full review of the system as well, and post up some good comments, and it could be yours.
It is a tiny little killer gaming rig. It's got a GeForce GTX 780 in this thing. SSDs. How many gigs of RAM do we have going on in there? 16 gigs of RAM, overclocked. Core, actually, it's not overclocked, but it's a Core i7-4770K. Really well done. Nice little system up for grabs here.
Oh, that looks really nice. And I'm not eligible for this kind of thing, so you guys suck. Because everybody else gets to win this but me. I always say that because I'm always mean it, because I could always use another machine. Sorry, I'm just gawking again at the specs. All right, so if you want to get in on this contest or future contests, if you want to read about anything we've talked about today, check out HotHardware.com. That's where everything you need to know about hardware is. That's where you can go. Or if you want to go around the web, there's all kinds of options. Let's just pass it around. We're going to say, Marco, if I wanted to go to Twitter and find hot hardware content, how can I do that?
It's very easy. Twitter.com/HotHardware.
Oh, Dave, what if I was on
Yes?
Facebook? What should I do?
You would head to facebook.com/HotHardware, don't you know?
Okay, Marco, this one's a hard one. If I was on YouTube and I like the moving pictures, how do I get to hot hardware?
YouTube.com/HotHardwareVids. We couldn't get Hot Hardware, but Hot Hardware Vids.
How'd you
Dave,
like that curveball?
Google Plus. We got Google Plus out there. I know you've got a vanity URL. Would you like to tell the folks how to find hot hardware beyond a search on Google
Sure,
Plus?
that would be plus.google.com/plus hot hardware. Yeah, just in case you weren't sure, there's lots of pluses in there.
There you go. Now you know if you want to get pluses, you can get plussed or be non-plussed at Google Plus, but that's a whole other punny joke. Anyway, I think that wraps it up for us, unless there's more NVIDIA news that I missed. Is there?
I think we're good.
it's
I
enough.
think we covered NVIDIA enough this episode.
It's enough green for now, yeah.
Enough green for now. I'll take that as a good thing. That wraps it up for us. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see everybody next time.